Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the latest episode of Outer Rim Ramblin' with myself, the outlaw Adam Neeson, and of course my co-pilot, the Jedi Knight, Danny Brown. Danny, how are you, my friend?
Hello there. I'm good. I actually just finished watching Revenge of the Sith for our chat today, and I'm filled with much Star Wars joy and love. So I'm really excited to get talking to you guys about it. And I say guys because there's a specific reason.
Well, you might be a Jedi Knight, Danny, but we have a Jedi Master joining us today.
Oh,
We have
oh my
the man, the
goodness.
myth, the legend, the king. Well, not the king of, because there's a king of King's Corner, but
Ah,
he's the king of the king from the Fright Club,
oh,
it's Mr. Gav Logan. Gav, how are you?
The Wonga Wonga lads, what's the crack?
oh.
I'm very good, Adam. Thanks very much for having me on. I really appreciate it. As Danny knows, I love talking about Star Wars too. So,
Oh yeah, oh yeah. And we should say AKA Big Stark later.
Red 3 standing by.
oh
We
yes, of
are
course, Biggs, yes,
uh
stay on target.
big bigs, yeah.
It's about to get biggie with it here, so we are. So
Oh,
let's go.
Well, Gav, you are a massive Star Wars fan, so we'll start there. Where
mm.
sort of did and how did you get into Star Wars? Did you get in as a kid, older, or were you just out of the womb ready for some Wookiee?
Well, I was 4 years old, sitting in front of the TV watching Star Wars. Now, yeah, basically when I was a kid, yeah, Star Wars was on the TV Christmas time, that sort of period between Christmas time and New Year. Where you got a lot of premieres on TV, and it was a big thing back then.
Star Wars, a breathtaking adventure, coming soon on ITV.
We'd all sit around the TV and we'd watch these films. It was kind of a major deal when you were a kid when Star Wars was on. It doesn't matter how many times you watched it, you always sat in front of the TV to watch it because that was the only time you could watch it. Because when I was a kid, we didn't really buy videos as such. We did rent them, but we didn't really buy them. We didn't have a video collection. So yeah, so as a kid, Star Wars was a big thing for me. I didn't really know that I was a fan of Star Wars until I grew up, though, which is a strange thing to say. But the fandom of Star Wars didn't become a thing for me until probably the prequel, just after the prequels came out, maybe, but certainly a little bit later than that. Whenever I kind of rediscovered my love for the franchise after kind of Disney bought it and brought it back from its death, really. So,
Yeah.
and I've been a fan ever since I was a kid. But my fandom really kicked off whenever the new films came out.
Hmm. And we had spoke last time on the pod that I don't know if you maybe had the same sort of feeling I did that when sort of the prequels were coming out, did you have the influence of something like Kevin Smith or Spaced that sort of made you feel like, oh, I can't like Star Wars because it's not cool anymore?
No, absolutely not.
No.
I didn't actually get any of that negative stuff until long after the prequels. I was an internet kid and stuff, but I never went on forums that much to the point where I knew that there was this huge negativity surrounding the prequels. And to be honest, I was just kind of positive about Star Wars. Like, I just loved fucking Star Wars. I'll say that line again in case there's anybody out there called Star Wars. I love Star Wars, and I try not to get negative about it. I have, we've had negative conversations before in the past, Danny, about things that we don't like or that things could have been done better. But like, I just don't have time for all that negativity. There's nothing wrong with being critical about it, but I just no, I'm a big fan of Star Wars and I kind of eat it all up. There's some things I love more than others, but no, I definitely wasn't part of that whole kind of nerdy culture when it came out as well. Because I'm a wee bit older than you guys, so when it came out, I was when did Phantom Menace come out? 99.
99. Yeah.
So I was 16. Drinking, smoking,
You want to buy some death sticks?
getting into girls, all that sort of stuff, and kind of discovering other things whenever Phantom Menace came out. And as much as I was excited for that, I wasn't like 100%, fandom was going crazy. It wasn't really until Revenge of the Sith, really, whenever I sort of kind of went, fuck, I can't wait for this. I can't wait, straight to the cinema, going crazy, trying to find out all the information about it, all the information about all the characters, and then going back and rediscovering my love of the original trilogy.
I think that's one of the reasons why we love talking to you about Star Wars and having you on the pod, because me and Danny sort of have the unspoken rule of why we started the podcast is we wanted to talk about Star Wars in a positive light, especially with there being so much negativity online, whether it be racism or sexism or any sort of thing. We just want to sort of just talk about Star Wars and how much we love it because you can hate a lot of things, but if you're hating on something because a woman has a lightsaber, then there's probably something more mentally wrong with you than just you don't like Star Wars. Attack the Mon Calamari.
Mon Calamari. Unbelievable.
They deserve more hate than
Exactly, because they're different. So
they are. They
Give
smell
me
like
them wee
fish.
Mon Cals alone and the wee sweaters and all, wee fishermen. Gav, me and you probably, most people probably know us as the Fright Club guys, but I think we always reiterate every sort of like Star Wars Day, you'll post up the picture of us as Biggs and the Sand Trooper,
Making out.
and sort of say and kissing. But yeah, you'll always kind of post that picture and be like, our friendship really kind of blossomed from Star Wars when we started doing the Star Wars costuming together. And I think that's if we could get away with doing a load of Star Wars screenings, we probably would as well. But it's not easy to screen horror, but it's far easier to screen horror than it is to screen any Star Wars content. We came together because of our love of Star Wars, and it's why Adam and I have now come together because of our love of Star Wars, and we just want to keep spreading that Star Wars love like some sort of intergalactic STD, you know?
Absolutely, I'm here for it, for sure.
Some intergalactic butter.
Mm.
Give it a big spread.
It's going to be blue because of the
Oh,
Ooh,
now,
milky.
Dominic, we'll have some incoming transmissions. I want to touch on some Star Wars news that's crept up. Season of the Force has started in Disneyland World, in the old Batuu that we talked about last month. Gav, you've travelled to Batuu?
I have not. It was not
Oh.
a thing. So I've been to Disney World a few times, but the last time I was there was 2018, so it was just opening either later that year or the year after. I can't quite remember. But I was there for I could see the big wall and it said opening soon, and I was there for Galactic Nights as well. So that was an amazing experience. But I haven't been to Batuu just yet.
But I'm sure you'll be there in about 4 years' time.
Yeah, yes, 3.5 to 4 years.
Or 6 months, depending on how things go.
Exactly.
But there's some fun stuff. They've finally got Luke Skywalker as a walkabout character with R2D2. They're finally stepping away from that. It has to be in canon between Last Jedi and Rise of Skywalker.
Yeah.
What's the point?
I think that was a wee bit of a weird one, wasn't it? Because they were they didn't have much to go on.
Yeah,
basically.
When you're not filling that gap anywhere else apart from the novels, and it's like Rey on her day off went to this theme park.
What Luke Skywalker is it, by the way?
It's Return of the Jedi, Luke.
It's his black.
The best.
Yeah,
Luke.
yeah. I wonder, does he have the wee flap that comes away so you can get that wee bit of white in? I wonder if you go up and be like, can I just do your wee flap open?
Well, I've seen someone online say that he looks like everyone's cousin. And I was like, I can see it.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
Not a specific cousin, just a cousin that everybody knows.
Cousin.
Yeah. But there is some merch that I've seen, and there's a questionable one. Now, I'm going to put it into the group chat. So if you want to put the group chat up, gentlemen,
Okay.
it's a photo. I'll put it on the page when the podcast drops. Now, I just want to get your honest reaction to this t-shirt. Now, it's a t-shirt with Darth Vader on it. Everybody knows, scariest man in the galaxy. This is the choice that Disney have went with.
This doesn't sound good.
I hadn't seen this one. I've seen some of the other ones. I hadn't seen this. Oh my god.
No way. Is that real?
Yeah, that's real.
I am buying it.
Do you know what it is? You're going to speak about it now, Adam, but it's not just the font and the word that the font, it's the dripping.
Yeah.
It's getting me.
Yeah. Why is there like Rasta colors as well all over Vader? What's that about?
Just for the people at home, if you're not looking at the photo, it's a picture of Darth Vader that has sort of pink spray paint around it that's, like Gav says, is dripping, and it says in big bold letters,
Daddy.
Yeah. That Imperial insignia is just dripping.
And
There's real big intentional drips too.
Yeah.
You were saying, Danny, about the Rastafarian colours. There's a bit of yellow and a red and blue, kind of a hint of it there. But he did have a wild cough, so I bet he was doing a while lot of that wacky, you know?
That's how he unwinded in his wee chamber at the end of the day. That's wild. Daddy. Is it marketed for women, unisex? Is it like...
What do you say, Danny? Because...
I assume it's for parents of younger children. But...
Well,
what you mean, like Asda's Father's Day attire?
The t-shirt beside it that's for women is a picture of Leia that says princess.
Right, okay.
Right. So is this meant to be for the dads?
Well, it's for adults.
Yeah, but I feel like this is going to be picked up by a very different community.
Mm-hmm.
all together.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah,
do you
yeah.
know what? Everyone deserves a T-shirt, so bring
Yeah,
it on,
yeah,
man. You know.
But you know what? Maybe that's it. Disney just know exactly what they're up to, and they're like, "We're not going to say it out loud, but you still know what we mean."
Mm.
You know?
Big leather daddy Vader.
hmm They have to release that next.
Leather daddy.
Get Vader, but it's a gimp suit, but with the Vader mask.
To
What
be
about that?
fair, Gav, do you remember? I remember the first time seeing a Vader cosplayer without the cape on at the back. And did you know the like leather pleather front? There's not all Vader costumes have that at the back, and it's just basically like snap straps at the back.
Mm,
So there is something kind of kink play about a Vader cosplay. So I mean,
it is very,
is this a thing?
it is very sort of like Pinhead-esque, you know,
Yeah.
strappy and all that sort of stuff. So you never know, maybe.
If any of the listeners out there have a thing for Vader, let us know.
Hmm.
What do you mean, listeners? I've got a thing for Vader.
You're rock
So,
hard right now. Look at
I
that
know.
t-shirt.
I know. I don't know what's going on here, but something's happening.
Your helmet's rising.
But I thought that was a
Sorry,
wee.
we call them lids, Danny, not
Sorry,
helmets.
lid. Your lid's rising.
The lid's raging. It's on target for sure.
Oh dear. This
That's-
podcast has already started in a place.
Well,
Yeah.
that's a wee bit of fun from Season of the Force, which runs up until May 4th weekend, I think, or just past. Speaking of May 4th weekend, local walking tour.
Alternative Ulsters.
Alternative Ulsters have set up one of their walking tours which highlights cinemas around Belfast, the magic of movie making in our sweet capital city. But on Sunday, May 4th, there is a Alternative Ulster that's focused all around Star Wars.
Mm-hmm.
You can get your tickets at ticketsource.co.uk, look up Alternative Ulster Tours May 4th, or go to their Instagram at Alternative Ulster Tours and click the link in the bio. But that sounds fun. You can take a wee dander around, see how the old cinemas, point to things and say, that's where Luke Skywalker buys his bread. I don't know, I haven't been on the tour, so I don't know what it's like.
It sounds good. It sounds interesting. I've had a wee look at the information for it, and Andrew, who runs it, has found old like advertisements and posters that refer to different Star Wars events that happened during the time in different cinemas in different areas, like Darth Vader visits the local shopping center and that sort of carry on. So yeah, if you're a big Star Wars fan, like a little local history, then why not check it out?
And if you travel a little bit west of Belfast, you'll find your own type of rebels.
We don't speak about those on these type of podcasts. So
I was never in the Rebel Alliance.
here, does Star Wars have any sort of connection to Ireland, lads, at all, or?
Can't think of even one.
No.
Maybe some
Spicy.
other time.
Maybe when Andor comes out, we might
Yeah.
talk about it. I don't know.
That's a whole other episode.
Yeah. But of course, that was their first wee advertisement. But we can't deny our ongoing sponsorship we have with the local intergalactic star company, Star Tours. What a great deal they ran last month, Danny.
They absolutely did. J3 treated us.
He did, and you got to see all the sights of Tatooine, your Mos Espas, your Mos Eisleys, and I heard reports back that at least 7 people got shot by a blaster, and that's not bad for Star Tours.
No, that's not too bad. That's actually another word.
This month we have another sweet deal from JP30. Let's take it from the droid himself, and he can tell us what this month's deal of the month is.
Hello, J3PO here again with your latest offer from StarTours.com. Why not take your better half on a romantic weekend away to the forest moon of Endor? Stay in a former Imperial bunker turned glamping pod with all the necessities you could ask for on a forest moon. Just stay out of that generator room, otherwise you'll get a wild bad shock. And then head up to the treetops and spend some time with the Ewoks, and they'll make you one of the finest flame-grilled meals you've ever had in your life. Have you ever seen a tip-yip cooked on a spit roast? Well, now you will. And then finish off your stay with a bit of speeder bike racing through the own trees. But just be careful, because we don't have the kinds of insurance policies to cover you if you crash into one of them trees. Alright, well, that's all from me. But before I go, I'd best tell you the price. It's only 300 credits for the whole weekend. Sure, you'd be daft not to take starters up on that. Right, folks, take her easy, and I'll maybe see you on the Forest Moon of Endor. Bye-bye.
Thanks, JP. I can't think of a better weekend away than the Forest Moon of Endor.
I can't wait. I'm booking it straight away. Like,
I can't wait to try that Ewok food.
It's gonna be good. And if you were any sort of like shiny material, I think you're a god.
That's true. Just wrap yourself in tinfoil before you go. You'll be grand.
Yeah. So let's get on to our main subject. We've got the third episode, but not the third episode, but the third episode of Star Wars, which, everybody thinks is the coolest because of the lightsaber fights. But I think there's more to it than just lightsaber fights. There's also, some political intrigue and the best face you'll ever see from Palpatine whenever he's trying to be as subtle as a fart in a windstorm to be like, here, you haven't heard about Darth Plagueis, is it? Of course, we're talking about Star Wars Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith. Gav, we'll start with you. When did you see Revenge of the Sith? Were you there for opening weekend?
I sure was.
Ooh.
What year was it?
2005?
Mm-hmm.
Was it 2005? Fuck.
Yeah, 20 years ago this
Oh well, of course, 20 years. That's why it's getting re-released. Yes, I was there. Probably opening weekend. Certainly within the first week, it was definitely there. This, as I mentioned earlier, I was really excited for this one because, as we know, it was the final of the trilogy. We all wanted to know how that transformation happened. I was a fan of Attack of the Clones and Phantom Menace, even though, there was a lot of negativity surrounding those. I was unaware of the negativity. I just loved it. And so I was really just ready for this. I was just like, give me this film. I want to see, Anakin turn. I want to see the lightsaber fights. I knew there was going to be the confrontation between Anakin and Obi-Wan. So that was the main drawing point for me. And yeah, it lived up to the hype. And even after all these years, it's still fucking great. I still get goosebumps. I still get wee tingles in my balls whenever they're jumping around Mustafar like fucking blue arse flies.
Danny, how much do you love the unintentional, hilarious circle zoom in on C-3PO as it goes to Padme's funeral at the end?
I love all the crossfades in this film. Like every single fade across all of Star Wars. But this film like really goes for it, doesn't it? Like it's got so many like fades where it's like just honing in on a character's face. But yeah, that one in particular is just like, okay. Oh fuck. It's, you know what? Rewatching it again as I finished up just before we came on to record, and it's one of those films, 1 minute I'm laughing because I've seen a scene that is now memed all over the show, and the next minute I'm just like near gurning because, Obi-Wan and Anakin are having their moment. And it's just like,
Are you talking about the pole dance meme?
yeah, exactly.
Sexy.
It is like, it's one of those things I can acknowledge some of the moments in it are now looking back, you're just like, fuck, like so cheesy or it's so silly. But you mentioned there about Al Palpy Boy doing this whole Plagueis the Wise moment. My favorite moment, and it just really stood out to me this time, is when Obi-Wan and Anakin go to fight Dooku, and I think Anakin gets like a good kick into Dooku, and Palpatine's just like, yeah. So it's like this like little like, yeah. Just fucking
What's all in you?
absolutely fucking killed me. Like,
I was going to say that's like the Star Wars universe version of you.
yeah, he does. He sticks him a proper wee yo, and there's just so many. Like that's one of the things I love is like Star Wars's sound design. Like the sounds of Star Wars are incredible, but this one has so many just like random wee noises. Like at the start of the film, R2D2 does the same like noise twice, like in a row whenever they're trying to like land the cruiser.
A few moments later.
They must like the sound designers must have been like, that's so fucking funny that they did it pretty much back to back. There's so much I think to love about Revenge of the Sith, and it goes on really well. Like it doesn't seem to really slow down as much. Like there's peaks and troughs with the first two, whereas the pacing of Revenge of the Sith is very solid, really solid.
Well, it starts off amazing, like
yeah.
That big space battle, and then because we know where it's going. Although weirdly back then we all knew that Palpatine was the Emperor, but like there was still something where we just were kind of like, is he? At this stage we did, but when Phantom Menace came out, we weren't entirely 100% sold.
You mean you didn't have an uncle to tell you, here, that's Emperor Palpatine?
No, but I do remember, and I'll fucking never forget this. I went with a friend of mine to the cinema, and halfway through we were looking at Ian McDiarmid I was going, hang on. And I'd obviously watched the trailers and all, and we kind of all knew, like, but it wasn't quite as obvious back then. And I was like, hang on a second. And it just came to me, and I was like, this is actually happening. This is the Emperor. We're seeing the journey. Who, the Emperor's a fucking amazing character. Like, so glad that we got to see his kind of journey as well as Anakin's, because we all know, like, people think Star Wars saga is about Luke Skywalker, but it's about Anakin Skywalker. Like, he's the main character, and I would actually say it's also about C-3PO and R2-D2 as well. So yeah, great.
What I love about the intro is sort of, and it plays more if you've watched the Clone Wars, is the relationship between Obi-Wan and Anakin. And whenever Anakin jumps into the lift and Obi-Wan turns around with his lightsaber ignited, he's like, "Oh, it's you, sorry." But I think the relationship they built on, a lot of people complain that they didn't have much, not even that they had much chemistry, but it's like, oh, they had these grand adventures and you didn't really get to see them. Of course, the Clone Wars elaborates on a lot of that, but I think you can't have the fight you have at the end of the movie and not believe that these two characters and the two actors don't have a lot of chemistry together, because they do. You believe by the end that they are brothers, and I know Hayden Christensen gets a lot of flack, but it takes two to tango, obviously, in those scenes. And Ewan McGregor's "You are my brother" while fucking Hayden's on the ground screaming is still some of the most powerful stuff in all of Star Wars, if not cinema. It's very Shakespearean, and I think obviously that's what George was going for.
Again, it's like poetry. So if they rhyme,
Mm-hmm.
every stanza kind of rhymes with the last one.
But it's a great film that has a lot of great moments that they have expanded on in different other types of media. But as a whole, as a film, like you say, Danny, so well paced, you kind of feel the dawning of the Jedi have been snookered, and they're sort of like, you have all been made to look fools by this delightful chancellor from Naboo. Can't believe you've done this. And it all just comes to an end. And when you get to that, I always fucking are teary-eyed when it gets to the Naboo funeral with Padme, until it cuts to Jar Jar, and I'm like, why are you here?
Because he's important. He's integral to the whole thing. But everybody, right, here's the thing, right? I was thinking about this recently. So everybody blames Jar Jar. Everybody's like, Jar Jar is kind of the catalyst of, giving Palpatine his emergency powers, right? Who put Jar Jar in charge?
He just sort of is by the end of.
Is it not Padme? Is Padme not the one who's kind of like,
he gets a promotion for sure. Like,
so I mean, somebody
if you go back far enough, it's all Palpatine. Like,
well, that's true. He has been wangling the whole situation from the get-go.
That's what makes it just this amazing odyssey that he goes on from. Way,
is it
way
really
back.
Palpatine's story? I mean, if we take Rise of Skywalker into account, is the Star Wars Palpatine story?
I don't think so, because I think the story is about a hero. But I get what you're saying, yeah.
Palpatine's a hero to some.
Yeah, well, he could be, yeah.
I suppose it's sort of
great again.
Well, I suppose he sort of orchestrates his own death twice. Just it takes ages to do. And there's a war between.
And he wasn't sure the first time if it was a real death or not, if he was going to orchestrate it until 20 years later.
Yeah, well,
or how many years, I don't know.
Rise of Skywalker is a very special thing. And the more I've revisited Rise of Skywalker, the more I'm like, some great moments in this. It's just a real shame. It's a movie that feels like the second part of a two-parter, and we never got the first part.
Yeah.
Just to go back to Revenge of the Sith there, you were saying about Hayden and Ewan McGregor, the chemistry and stuff. Like, I never ever heard that people thought they didn't have chemistry until later, until like it was really, really out there. And how could you not think they had chemistry? Like, they're amazing at the end of Revenge of the Sith, and I love how that film starts and Anakin has changed physically. He's got a scar and he just looks different. He's got a different aura about him, and so time has passed, and so they've been through battles together. And I love that. I love that we don't know what they've been through at that point, and obviously we find out through the Clone Wars animated show, which is fucking amazing too. But that film is better because of the Clone Wars animated show. But yeah, definitely they're amazing together.
You kind of see both the respect and the disrespect that Anakin feels from the Jedi Council. But at the end of the day, whenever like the Jedi were being sloppy because they were just naive to think that it was all going to go their way in the end. But whenever Mace Windu sort of has that conversation with Anakin in that hallway to be like, here, you may watch your man. It's sort of too little, too late. But it's a movie where I know we have the Clone Wars and stuff and some of the novels, but it is a movie that like I don't think there's a franchise like it where you see a character like get Fisto and you're like, what's that whole guy's story? Episode 3 is full of people like that, especially with the Jedi, especially with even some of the troopers like Wander Cody. You're like, well, I would never need to know this man's story, but then when you get to actually explore it, it's fucking class. But as its own story, like I say, it is tragic, and I know people poo-poo the Vader no at the end, but the silence as the breath is being taken. Is still so fucking badass.
So fucking good. That moment where the mask come down his face and you see the wee red lenses open up and you just get the mask, like the little bit of like pressured gas, just like, tss, and then that.
Yeah, like, in the cinema, like you could hear a pin drop. Like it was incredible. Like everybody was waiting for that moment, and they were waiting for that moment since they announced this new trilogy that was coming, and they had to go through Attack of the Clones. They had to go through Phantom Menace. Not in a bad way, but like they had to watch those films first. They were released obviously first, and then we finally got to this moment, and it just felt like such a relief, like a weight lifted to see Vader on screen again. Because it's weird now, because like you see him all the time. Anytime there's a fucking Star Wars show, they try to get Vader in there somehow. But it was really weird back then to see Vader on the screen again after all those years, and it was incredible feeling.
Just on your point there, Adam, about background characters that you want to know more of, is there one in particular? I only ask because mine was Clone Commander Bakara, who like guns down Ki-Adi-Mundi.
What about the droid attack on the Wookiees?
With the Galactic Marines, like that was the clone that I just remember seeing and being like, who's that? Like, why is his helmet different? And obviously we get them as the technicians in the Battlefront 2 game, the original Battlefront 2 game. But I just remember being like, whoa, and then finding out that there was an action figure for him and having to get it. And I remember getting it in the Trafford Centre in Manchester when I was overseeing family in Liverpool, and we went to Trafford Centre for the day, and this toy shop had the Commander Bakara episode 3 figure in it. I was like, I need this, like I'm not leaving without it, and I got it and I was so happy. And I just remember reading everything about Bakara, that he was like CC 1138 and then 1138 linking back to Lucas and THX 1138, and it just became this like thing that I like hyper fixated on. Do you guys have like a background episode 3 character that you got fixated on?
Mine's weird, and it's actually the book I recently finished that came out last month, The Reign of Fear, that focused on Mon Mothma, but it also focused on a character I'm slightly obsessed with in Star Wars, who's Bail Organa.
Why are you obsessed with him?
Because I love Jimmy Smits. He's just a character that, like, he's Leia's father, and all of the stuff that she gains from him being the Chancellor of Alderaan. And it's just, he's like the one guy in the Senate, like that book that recently came out, he's the one guy fighting to be like, I'm going to disprove Palpatine. Like he's saying like the Jedi turned on everybody. And he's like, well, I need the fucking proof. Like I need to see it. And he's just, Jimmy Smits, great guy. But anytime he turns up in Rogue One, turns up in some of the animated shows, anytime he turns up, even in Obi-Wan, when he turned up for like that one scene, I was like, oh, Jimmy Smits, give me.
Danny!
And then when I found a wee figure of him the other week, I was like, oh, give me a Black Series figure because I need him.
Very good.
Imagine we got a Black Series Jimmy Smits.
Did you watch a lot of Law and Order when you were younger?
I love him on Dexter.
He's in the Tommyknockers as well, isn't he?
He is.
Sons of Anarchy as well.
Yeah. He's just a good actor. He brings it every time.
Yeah.
And he gives to seeing this, he's like won a really solid performance, gives a real good turn in Revenge of the Sith. Like, I love when he goes to save Yoda. That's my fave.
Yeah.
Oh, brilliant! That's class. Yeah, he's quite regal as well. He's got that air. You can believe the character. You can believe him as a sort of senator, and that sort of people look to him as being this of high class anyway. You know, they have respect for him, which is, I suppose, why he has respect for the Jedi. You know, they both respected each other, and that's why he was one of the only ones to kind of help them out.
If you got a character, Gav?
From the prequels, suppose just some of the Jedi, like you mentioned Kit Fisto, and I do like. So, do you know the when they're in the Jedi temple and you see the council, and you're going, and you like most of them, some of them are holograms, and you can't really make them out. And I remember, like, obviously back then there wasn't as much on the internet, and there wasn't all this medium that you could get to instantly, no social media and all that shit. So you had to kind of go and find it in books and stuff. And I remember kind of trying to find out who all the Jedi were that were on the council, because there's some that you don't even really see properly. And I remember like just being like, oh, who's that? That's fucking. And then hearing about Yaddle and stuff, and going like, who's Yaddle? Like, why is she? Well, actually, we didn't know she was a she then. Like, that's Yoda. Like, why? Like, what? That blew my mind. You know, you don't really hear much about Yaddle over the years until you got that, you know, episode on
Tales of the Jedi, wasn't it?
was it Tales of the Jedi? Was it
the Dooku episode?
Yeah, and it was like just a nice real throwback, and it was just a nice thing to, you know, and that's why Star Wars is so amazing, because it's a huge timeline, and you can really be dropped in any timeline and still have amazing characters and amazing stories. But yeah, I think at the time, although I wouldn't be a massive fan of the Jedi now in terms of like I prefer now. And I suppose characters I even preferred when I was a bit of a kid was love Jabba's palace. Like I love the creatures, and maybe that's what started my love for horror films. But I love creatures. I love all the kind of bounty hunters and all the underground characters. And yeah, the Jedi Council I suppose would have been the ones just trying to find out who the fuck they were. I suppose we got most of them, didn't we? I think we did. We pretty much got them all at some point during the Clone Wars animated show, which was great. Yeah, it was fantastic.
Just before we move on, are you a puppet Yoda fan or a CGI Yoda fan?
Come on, man. Do you need to ask? No, I fucking huge, massive fan of practical effects. And I don't care if it looks silly. I don't care if there's wonky eyes. I don't care. I just love the magic behind practical effects. Not that I don't love CGI, you know, and the CGI obviously works in Attack of the Clones and stuff when he's fighting Dooku and that. Like, that was another scene, by the way. We talked about Vader coming on screen at the end of Sith. Finally seeing Yoda fight was like, honestly, it was something I never thought I would ever see. And it's, again, silly to think now because we've seen so many Jedis fighting so much of Yoda as well. But back then, man, I'm pretty certain I was erect. Like, I'm not joking. I was going, Master Yoda is actually fighting with a tiny little lightsaber, and he's bouncing about.
It's when he drops that stick. He just like lets his stick fall and just pulls the lightsaber out. And he does it again in this. He does it in Revenge of the Sith when he's like going up against Palpatine. And it's like what they did in episode 2 turned up to 11 for the fight with Palpatine. It's so good.
Whenever one of the most heartbreaking moments is, I would hazard a guess that most people absolutely love Yoda still, even though we've seen a bit more of them probably now that we need it to. Most Star Wars fans just love Yoda as a character. Like the moment whenever Order 66 happens and you can feel the pain, like you can literally feel the pain, and it's just a brilliant moment, you know, for a wee CGI Yoda.
Him clutching his wee heart, but then just decapitating 2 boys, you know, because
I know he's still a fucking badass.
Like, he's still a fucking badass. What I loved about Adam, you just asked about like Puppet Yoda, CGI Yoda. Obviously, Puppet Yoda's everyone's favorite. But why I was watching some of the behind the scenes stuff for Revenge of the Sith, and they'd started doing particle scattering effects for CGI. It just kind of come in for at the time Revenge of the Sith was being worked on. So they'd start to introduce. There's the scene where Anakin's gone to seek Yoda's counsel about the premonitions he's had, and they're sitting, and it's the lighting in the room is all cut by the blinds, so it's all real tense, and you know it's dark with those wee glimpses of light, but you can see the light coming through the membrane of Yoda's ears, and it was like one of the first times anything like that had been done. That idea of like the light catching through skin through membrane, and I just thought that was really interesting. I was like, that's really fucking cool, and the fact that this is a film that kind of, again, ILM has always been at the forefront of technological developments in film, but Revenge of the Sith is there doing that still. And even like the VFX for Star Wars, everyone gives off about the prequels being too CGI heavy, but we will always argue, because we know is that it's not all CGI. It's layers of maquettes and models and CGI and different composites and everything layered up. I was watching a thing about the behind the scenes of Mustafar and how they had models of the Mustafar landscape and how they tried out different like textures and materials to create that like crust, the like ashy crust of the planet. And then they'd use special liquids to like run through the model. So they had like this dyed like gelatinous fluid that would move like lava, and then that was layered in to the effects then. And I thought that was absolutely incredible that there's still this practicality to it all, but then the advancement of the visual effects, of the computerized effects, and just the fact that even that detail of like Yoda's ears and the light catching through the ears and giving it that slight pinky red tinge against his green skin. Wonderful. Absolutely wonderful.
They know how to do it back then.
Ooh.
You don't get this old Jippy She-Hulk twerking in the office.
Here, see, you were talking about the CGI and all. Like, people still moan about it now. That prequel trilogy, like, the advancements that that trilogy made in terms of just CGI in general as a whole was huge. And Attack of the Clones, I think, is probably the worst for it because there's entire sequences where all the clones are clearly animated to a certain extent, and it's very bright and it's very, there's not many textures to it, and it does look a bit shitty at times. But like, you can't really bash like how many people worked on that. Like, you know what I mean? Really skilled artists.
Yeah.
And they did a fucking great job. It definitely got better in Sith, probably mostly because Clones was a lot lighter and colourful, whereas Sith got a bit darker, obviously because of the theme in that. So that probably helped it.
Yeah. I think it's incredible that the 501st Clone Troopers, the first time we've seen a not CGI rendered is only really recently with the release of Ahsoka and Mandalorian, seeing them in the Jedi Temple and that, and seeing the 501st Troopers performed live action, rather than the CGI ones that we got in Revenge of the Sith. But again, I don't think that takes away from the clones at all by being like, oh, well, they're not practical. I was obsessed with the clone. I'm still obsessed with the clones. I mean, anytime there's a new figure, I've already pre-ordered my 501st Revenge of the Sith Special Edition Black Series figure that comes in the Revenge of the Sith packaging because I need it.
Well, that's Revenge of the Sith, and you can enjoy it on re-release in cinemas. Gav, will you be there for the re-release?
I might be, yes. I would say, yeah, fuck it. I will be, yeah.
Would tempt you with the wee 40X trip?
No, definitely not.
You don't want to experience in that opening scene when the ships are all flying through.
I'm very anti-40X.
What about IMAX? What if we get a wee IMAX release?
Well, IMAX is different. As long as the seats are stationary, I'm usually okay.
I wish to be sitting perfectly
I want
still.
to be able to drink my Coke and eat my popcorn without fucking flying them over your head.
Don't be watching it beside Danny. Just be vibrant the whole time.
That's different. That's up to you if you want to have your own little 40X thing going on between your legs or whatever. I don't know, but yeah, no, definitely not. Is it in 40X?
We don't know yet. It hasn't. There's been no release as of this recording for tickets.
I think the ticket what I've seen online is maybe the 12th of April. Cinemas are going to start announcing their tickets.
Mm-hmm.
So
I would imagine they probably will. They probably Cineworld and that probably will, but I don't know, man. To me, like, I know people like it. Don't get me wrong, but it kind of diminishes what it is. It's a 20th anniversary of this amazing film, and if you want to go to a fucking theme park ride, just go to Disney World. You know what I mean? Like, keep out of cinemas, as far as I'm concerned.
You're telling me you won't go see Martin Scorsese's new film in 40X?
Can't wait. Paul Thomas Anderson's new film in 40X.
That'll be so good.
That's going to be amazing. Like, here, apparently The Rock's going to be in Scorsese's next film, so there might be some crazy scenes in that, so it might be worth going and seeing in 40X.
Scorsese just secretly making Jumanji 3.
Cinema.
But if you're not going to the cinema at the end of April, it might be because you're in Japan, in the big land of the rising sun.
What's happening in Japan?
If we had a man in Japan.
A big man in Japan.
I have a friend who moved to Japan, and he's a big Star Wars fan. Don't know why around that, but I must give him a wee message to see if he's going, because if he's not, it's a missed opportunity.
Is his name Obi-Wan?
His name is Khan, which could be a Star Wars name.
Very good. Keon.
Keon, short for Collins water. But
Rest in peace.
R.I.P. Yeah.
Actually, while we're saying rest in peace, just rest in peace to Clive Rebel as well, who was the voice of the Emperor
Yes,
in The Empire Strikes Back. So rest in peace. He sadly
R.I.P.
passed away recently.
Mhm.
and not rest in peace, but send love and wishes to Drew Struzan,
Yes, absolutely.
who's suffering from Alzheimer's at the minute. Of course, beautiful poster maker, and I don't think people would love Star Wars as much as if it wasn't for the Drew Struzan posters.
I don't think people would love cinema as much if it wasn't for Drew Struzan.
Don't get them like that anymore.
You don't. The first thing I think about with Drew Struzan, poster-wise, is The Thing.
I have it out there signed. I met him in Orlando. So I met him when I was at Disney World the last time. We took 2 days and went to MegaCon, the convention center there in Orlando. Fucking amazing, man. Like, I know we're going off topic a little bit, but we're going to be talking about conventions, so I may as well throw this in. Got to meet Jeff Goldblum, Elijah Wood, loads of heroes of mine, cinematic heroes, and Drew Struzan was one of them. And I nearly didn't because with time constraints and we hadn't pre-purchased it. He wasn't a pre-purchase thing. He was in the sort of comic area, the art gallery area. And Janine was like, no, you've got to go and see this guy. Like, he's one of your heroes from your films and all these films that you love. He's done all the artwork. And I was like, I know, but we need to go with this panel or whatever it is we needed to do. And eventually I was like, fuck it, I'm going round. So it wasn't that long a queue and we met him. And I think he was only like $50 or something. It's quite cheap. And man, I'm so glad that I met him because he was such a delight to chat to. And I got him to sign the Thing poster. I was going to initially get Blade Runner. I didn't want to get a Star Wars one. He had Revenge of the Jedi. He had that original poster before they changed the name to Return. I thought, okay, everyone's going to have that signed. I don't want that. I want to get the Thing signed, and I did, and it was fuck. What a decision, man! What a great decision.
I'd have gone for the Muppets movie.
Yeah, he did. He had loads. He did have obviously an amazing selection of posters. But he was taking his time chatting to everyone. He's a really cool guy.
Nice.
So,
but Gav, like you say, you've been to MegaCon. You're a man that loves a good convention. Me and Danny spoke last month about Star Wars Celebration, but you've actually been not once, but twice.
Will be twice.
It'll be twice, yes.
So we've brought you on so you could just have a big ganch about just your memories from Celebration. Obviously, me and Danny very jealous men, but we'll love to hear the stories because we'll love to see you be happy.
Yeah, I mean, how long have you got, lads? We could be here another 3 hours.
Reminisce for us.
Make it 4.
This might have to be a 2 or 3 parter. Just amazing. Like, I went originally in 2016, whenever I was very much part of the costume club and was really deep into the fandom and really just like speaking to loads of people who are big Star Wars fans. Danny, we were mates at that point, weren't we?
We were, yeah.
Yeah, we were, yeah. So it was just, my whole life was just Star Wars at that point. It was sort of pre-Fright Club. Just, oh man, just eating up everything Star Wars. So, what year did The Force Awakens come out?
2015.
2015.
So it had already come out. So we had bought the tickets a year in advance. And we weren't sure if we were... No, actually, we didn't. We bought our tickets really late. Fuck us, right? We weren't sure if we were going to go. I think it was in April, and we only got our tickets in February. They released the second batch of tickets. So we were actually very, very lucky that we got them. And we couldn't not go. We were just like, loads of people in the club are going. Like massive Star Wars fans right now. It's just... The hype surrounding Star Wars is incredible. And we were big into conventions. We had been to, the Belfast conventions quite a lot and quite big into meeting people from films and getting things signed and photographs and all that. I know a lot of people don't really like doing that at conventions, but we do. So we just thought, fuck it, let's go. So we bought our tickets and they weren't that expensive in 2016 compared to 2023, but we'll get to that. But yeah, just completely mind-blowing experience. Went there it was only 3 days back then. Stayed quite close to the XL Centre in London. Pretty much a stone's throw away. The hotel was quite expensive, but it was worth it because you could just walk. You could literally walk. It was only 5-10 minute walk up the road. And back then, so you can't do this anymore, but back then, you used to be able to, if you wanted to get into a panel, you had to queue overnight. So you had to stay in the building overnight and queue with other Star Wars fans so that whenever they opened the queue officially at 6 a.m. in the morning, you were already in the queue, which sounds crazy, but like that experience is a once in a lifetime type experience. Like, it's hard to explain. To be there with other Star Wars nerds of all ages, like old people, young people, men, women, doesn't matter. Everyone from all around the world. It was amazing, and like we met loads of people and got chatting to people in the queue, and we had great crack. It was just an amazing experience. We got into all the panels that we wanted to. A bit of a long story here, but flying over that day, we were flying from obviously Belfast to Gatwick. Our flight was about 3 p.m. in the afternoon, but it was running late. Like, I'm not a good flyer, and I just get a lot of anxiety in airports and stuff, and I was like, fuck's sake. So I had to wait like 30, 40 minutes. It wasn't too bad. Go on the plane, sitting on the runway, literally ready to take off. And then the captain comes on and goes, oh, sorry, we've missed our space. We're going to have to wait on the runway until the free space opens up, which I don't know if you guys have ever experienced that, but it's a horrible feeling when you're sitting there ready to go and you have to wait. You know what I mean? And they're like, I don't know how long it's going to be. About maybe 40 minutes, 45 minutes. We had to wait on the runway, which is quite claustrophobic whenever everyone's getting a bit angsty and stuff. We arrived in London and they weren't ready for us, so we had to wait on the runway there as well. And it was just a fucking nightmare, man. At this point, we were just like, just get us there. Like, got the train was late. It was an issue with the train, I can't remember. Got a cab. The cab was like legitimately 100 quid to get from the station to the hotel, a black cab. And I had 100 quid in my wallet, and it was like 98 quid for the taxi, no joke. And the guy was like, "Oh, have you been here before?" And I was like, "Mate, I've been in London 10 times. Just go." You know, because I thought he was going to try and swindle us and drive us around fucking the West End 20 times. Anyway, we got there, we got our hotel. Got to the hotel probably about 11 or 12 o'clock at night, absolutely shattered, carrying suitcases and all as well. Got there, went to book in. Oh, sorry, we don't seem to have a room for you here. And I just went, what? And the guy goes, sorry, I can't, what's your name again? I'll look again. I can't see your name on here. And I just went, see if I don't get a room right now, I'm going to fucking wreck this hotel. I wouldn't have because I'm not that kind of person, but I was just so fucking angry and I was so tired. Guy was like, hang on, I'll go and check. And then he came back down. He was like, yep, we've got a room for you there. Apologies. We went up and dropped our shit off. I don't even think we slept. We just washed our face really quickly, got like a drink or something, and then just went over to the arena. Couldn't really find the entrance to the arena, so that was a bit tough. And then we realised we just walked past the door like fucking plebs. Went back round, went into the arena. We were fucking knackered, pretty angry at this point. And as soon as we opened the door and we went up the escalator, there was a guy walked out wearing a Jedi costume and a lightsaber, and he just smiled at us. And honestly, like we completely changed, our mood completely changed. And we walked down that big hallway towards the main hall, and we met a few people that we knew from the club. And like you wouldn't have thought we were in such a bad mood. It was the most amazing experience, and that's what Star Wars does to you. Like it just completely changes you into a kid again. And we went and picked up our tickets. We had to go and actually pick up the physical lanyards, which was amazing as well. And then we went and we met a few guys that we knew. Now we had only been in the club about 6 months maybe at this point. We'd only done a few trips, so we weren't really familiar with a lot of the faces. And a lot of the guys that were waiting there were from down south, which we hadn't even met before. But it was great, straight in, stuck in, and we were sitting in the queue the whole night. And then the first panel the next day was Mark Hamill panel, was the first one. Man, Mark Hamill, seeing him on stage, we were actually got really good seats as well. Obviously talking about Star Wars and the history, and at the very end he did a line from the Joker in the Joker's voice, which weirdly enough was kind of got me a wee bit more excited than talking about Star Wars. But yeah, just amazing experience. We got to see that panel. We got to meet Mark Hamill in person. We got to meet Carrie Fisher in person, who passed away later that year, I think. We got to meet so many legends from the original trilogy. It was mostly original trilogy guests that were there. And I remember I had a poster. I bought a specific poster. It was the anniversary poster for the original trilogy. And I got everyone to sign it that we met, and it was fucking amazing. I also met Ray Park and Daniel Logan, obviously, who are from the prequel trilogy. Had a really good experience with everyone, like really good experience chatting away. And I remember Janine mentioning something to Ray Park. She said she loves X-Men and she loves Toad, the character of Toad, randomly. I don't know real why she loves him, but she said everyone was like, oh, Darth Maul, brilliant. He was doing the Ray Park things where he does the spinner thing with the lightsabers and everyone was blown away. We went up and I actually got a Darth Maul Funko sign that's sitting over there. And then she mentioned something about Toad and his face just lit up because nobody talks about Toad. It's obviously you're there for Star Wars, you're talking about Star Wars characters, and just real great experience and like just an unforgettable weekend. And like it's going to be hard to ever beat that weekend.
Because it was post Force Awakens, did you feel like it was a literal celebration of Star Wars?
It was a perfect time for Star Wars, I think, because although there was some negative comments online or whatever, you know, about whatever you want to talk about, the casting of Force Awakens and, you know, the Rey thing and all that shit, and John Boyega, you know, I know he came under a lot of abuse and stuff. But it hadn't got to Last Jedi levels, clearly, because that film hadn't come out yet. It really was a celebration of Star Wars, and like if you ever go to Celebration, it is a celebration, man. It's just this amazing feeling. It's hard to beat, especially that first time because it was the first one. You know, I'd never been to anything as big as that, and I really felt like We were all there for the same reason. We were all there because we're Star Wars fans. There's cosplayers everywhere, like, and the cosplay is elite. Obviously you get people just throwing things together, which is fucking amazing too. But if you've ever been to some of the local cons, you get some great cosplayers out there. They're brilliant cosplayers. And then there's a next level cosplayer that you see from America or even somewhere like London or whatever, or Hong Kong or Australia, or someone have come over. They come from all around the world to this one building, and you're in the same building. And we spoke to people from all around the world, and the cosplay is just insane. And they had, obviously, you've seen pictures and stuff from all those celebrations over the years. They have loads of props and loads of stuff you can get photos with. It's amazing. It's absolutely amazing. Now, the second one I went to in 2023 was way bigger, like just so much bigger. It was actually probably well oversold. I think a lot of people said that they sold way too many tickets for it. So that was a bit of a different experience. It was equally as good on different levels. I always think the first thing you ever go to is always going to be like the one that you remember the most because it's like the first experience. I do think the second one was better for a lot of things, but they were different experiences for me.
Is there anybody that you sort of wish you had met there? Obviously, you met Mark Hamill and Carrie Fisher is incredible, but is there anybody there that you sort of wish had been? Like, off the top of my head, I don't even want to. I'm just going to say Harrison Ford. But is there anybody else that you sort of wish that if you went a third time, you would be able to meet?
Well, yeah, Harrison Ford, obviously, but I think the thing with him is, nobody can afford to meet him. Like, well, only really rich people can afford to meet him. It's kind of, he kind of outprices fans. I don't know. I think I've kind of met everyone that I wanted to meet. Like, this was around the time where I was I've been to a few cons in Belfast and maybe even Dublin, and I'd bought like signed stuff before and met people, but it was still early in that realm of meeting people, so I was still a bit like, oh, should have spent the money, should have not spent the money. You're kind of at that point. And pre-going, I hadn't really budgeted that much. I was like, I'm going to buy a poster. I probably will meet Mark and Kari and some of the other. We met Anthony Daniels as well and Kenny Baker and a few other ones. I hadn't fully thought it through. Like we didn't really have time to properly plan it, so I was just kind of going right. Yes, I've got money to meet that guy. I've got that money to meet that guy. Whereas the last one was strategic. We had everything planned out every single day. Me and Janine are very good at planning. We're really good at coming up with itineraries if we're going away. Anytime we go to Disney World, every single day we know what we're doing. Pretty much every hour of every day. Not to the point where it's not fun.
Yeah.
It's not like a fucking military operation, but we're just really good at planning stuff. So I can't think of anyone that wasn't there that I was like, why weren't they there? You know what I mean? I suppose maybe people from The Force Awakens. That was obviously being in London, where the original trilogy was shot in Pinewood and stuff, and they all had that connection. They did go more for the original trilogy. I don't think it was anybody from the new film there, actually. Not as a guest, like signing. They were at panels and stuff, but no, I don't think it was anybody from the new films, so I was quite happy with who I met at that first one.
So obviously you said like mostly meeting, getting your autographs and stuff's kind of a big thing for you. But of the overall experience, what would you say was sort of one of your favorite things? Was it the panels? Was it the merchandise? Was it the artist Sally? Like what kind of, or is it just an amalgamation of all of it? Or was there something in particular that you were like, that was a great moment at Celebration in terms of what there was available to do?
Well, obviously everything is amazing, but in terms of the merch, I do like merch. I wouldn't say I'm like, oh, that they've got this new T-shirt or they've got this new exclusive pen or this exclusive. We've done a wee bit of that over the years, or like if there's something exclusive, we're not massive into the exclusive stuff. We did get an exclusive Kylo Ren figure, which we had to queue up for at the time. It was a Black Series. It was like a double Black Series figure.
Is that the one without the helmet?
Yeah. So that was an exclusive to that convention. I don't think it's worth any money, but we just because we were there, we're like, fuck, guy, let's queue up. There was another queue, and it was just like, there's another queue. Let's just join the queue and see what that's for, and we got it. I think the panels is the best thing. Meeting Mark and Kari was just like mind blowing, like dream come true. Like I never thought I'd ever meet those guys, especially at that point in my convention career. I hadn't met anyone. I don't think I'd met anyone of that stature before, really. So meeting them then was just absolutely mind blowing. To be honest, and here's a wee funny thing. My experience with meeting Mark Hamill, his queues were mental. Him and Kari's queues were mental all weekend. You had to actually get a virtual queue ticket back then. I think they still do them these days. So the queue was mental. You had to run from where we were at in our queue hall across, and I get bad shin splints. So it was a fucking challenge for me, but I was like, I don't give a fuck running, man. So you had to run across the hall and a little bit over to get into the autograph hall, and then you had to turn right, and it was kind of a wee bit of a maze to get there. And we got there, and then you queued up, and they gave you a virtual ticket to come back at a certain time, which was actually worked out really well. At the time, we were kind of like, how does this work? Is this going to be a good idea? We're going to miss out, but we didn't. We got there. So we went back, we met Mark. You couldn't see him. You can see most of the guests, but he was behind a board. So you queued like a zigzag line, and then you went behind a board, and then there was another zigzag line, and the same for Kari. And I had really bad experiences with those two guys. So me and Mark, we queued up, and everyone was excited. Everyone had lightsabers and fucking all this mad shit that they were signing. I had my poster. You queue up at the bottom end of the table. Mark's here, and you're maybe 3 or 4 people down, and obviously he's talking, and you're saying to the person down, right, I'm going to get one autograph. Here's my ticket, whatever. Okay, pick a pen, get your poster ready, blah, blah, blah. You go up. And whenever it was my turn to go to Mark, we went up, but he was sort of in mid-conversation with his handler or whatever his assistant was called. So I'm standing there, and he had to even look up at this point, and I'm going, this is one of the best moments of my life here. Come on, acknowledge me. I thought it was Roman Reigns back then, but before he even became a thing. I was like, acknowledge me, Mark, please. Eventually he did, and when he did, it was amazing. Like, he did a big, whoa, hi, nice to meet you, and it was fucking great. And he signed the thing, and he was, we're from Ireland, and he loved it, and it was fantastic. So that was that, and I'm glad that happened, because it was like, for about 20 seconds, he was just talking to somebody while I was standing there like a dork. And I thought, why is this guy not fucking even acknowledging me? But anyway, we got there, and it was brilliant. And then when we went to meet Kari, we went around the queue and went into behind to the next queue, and we got to the very end. There was one person in front of us, and she left, and we were like, right, what's going on here? And we spoke to the person. We're like, what's happening? I know they have to go for toilet breaks and blah, blah, blah. Oh, no, she has to go to do something. And I was like, oh, any idea how long we've been queuing for about an hour at this point. No, I'm not really sure how long, but we had a panel to go to. And it was a pretty big panel. It might have been the Andor panel, because this was pre-Andor. Yeah, it was pre-Andor, but that's right. So we got to see all the Andor cast before Andor came out. Not Andor. I keep saying Andor. Rogue One. Yes, sorry. My bad. Rogue One. And we got to see Krennic come out in his costume, which was a surprise. And also Gwendolyn Christie was the surprise host, which was another surprise. So that was mad. This is why I'm saying panels are the best thing, because, it's a crazy experience. Anyway, we were like, we have to go to a panel. Fuck. So, but we really wanted to meet Kari, and we didn't want to like juggle. We were like, can we not do both? And the guy who was there was like, I'll give you a ticket. And he signed it, and I was like, as soon as that panel's finished, you come over and you'll get in line. And we were like, fucking happy days. So we did that, and we came back, and we met Kari, and she was amazing. Janine, who was in the club as well, she did Endor Leia. She was a great Endor Leia. She met Kari, or she got a sign to her, and she signed all in different colours, and all. It was brilliant, like rainbow colours. It was a fantastic experience. But yeah, a bit of a fucking shitty moment there for a while. I was kind of thinking, no way are we not going to get a chance to meet Kari, but we did in the end. So I can't remember what the original question was. Oh, the panels are great. The panels, I think, are the best thing, because you go to a panel and like there's literally 500 people or 1,000 people or whatever it is. I can remember a couple of thousand actually at that big auditorium, and there's lightsabers, everywhere, and people are going mad, and it's big stage, and it's being broadcast live, and it was even bigger for the that previous one in 2023. But the panels are very, very exciting. I would definitely say they're the best thing from the weekend.
That's class. What would you say? So you've already kind of mentioned you and Janine are very organized. You kind of have a bit of an itinerary together. You're very prepared for when you go to not just celebrations, but cons in general. You kind of have a bit of a plan. But what would you recommend to somebody who's maybe attending their celebration for the first time? Not necessarily the Japan one, but even just a con for the first time. Because I know there's maybe people listening to this who have never been to a con. I know we all have. But maybe someone who's never attended a con, especially something like Celebration that is going to be so massive and so much to see, you being the veteran con goer that you are and have attended some massive conventions, what would your suggestions be to a con newbie?
Just depends what you want out of the convention, really. If you're there for guests, which a lot of time we love meeting guests, as I mentioned, that's what would pull me into a convention, would be, who are these guests? Doesn't mean I wouldn't go if there wasn't good guests, but if you're into guests, you have to obviously budget. Like, I love collecting autographs, not so much anymore, but I've got a pretty good collection there, and we also do like to do the official photo opportunities as well, which we've been doing a wee bit more than autographs. So you have to obviously budget that, and like the money now is kind of going through the roof. A lot of guests are a lot more expensive than they were even last year or the year before. and that's probably to do more with the companies running these events. I know the celebration in 2023 was just absolutely ridiculous, the prices that they were charging for the guests then. Budget's the main thing. I suppose if you're like a cosplayer, you have to that's a whole other thing you have to think about. Like, I don't really cosplay at conventions. I know I've done a few with the club, but in general, when we go to conventions, we just go as punters. We don't really cosplay. I've done a few cosplays before, actually. I did Professor Pig, which was a fun one. Janine did the Joker's daughter as well. She's quite an obscure character. Well, it was back then. So I've done a few kind of makeshift cosplays back in the day, back in the early days. You have to think about that as well, because like you have to think, where are you changing? What can you bring to have your cosplay in, or are you just going to show up and cosplay? Then is it going to be hot outside? Like, what's the weather going to be like? Are you going to be dripping in sweat, which has happened to me many a time, and yourself, Danny? We were talking about before we came on about the lids that we wore. Fuck me, that's really difficult. If you're walking around a hall for 3 to 4 hours, maybe more, in a stormtrooper outfit, or whatever, it's really, really difficult. It's really sore in your back and your knees, and if you're wearing a lid that's tight, it's really sore in your ears. So you have to prepare for that. But I think more so than anything, it's just about budget. But if you're not really caring about the guests, just go and have a good crack. That's really it, man. Go and fucking enjoy yourself, man. Because there's a bit of a weird thing about conventions now. Like, when they first came out, it was amazing because we never got them. We had Showmasters and MCM, and then Showmasters went away, and then the MCM eventually went away, and now we have Monopoly events, they have really big guests, and they're really well run. But it's kind of, I suppose, because we've done them for so long now, you kind of see the same people and same costumes and same props and same stalls, and it has become a little bit, I wouldn't say nauseating, but it's great to meet up with friends and you haven't seen in a while and stuff, but it is kind of all the same now. So there is that kind of, you're starting to lose the love. So just go and have good crack, and maybe don't have massive expectations, and then usually your expectations will be exceeded if you go in with low expectations. But it's all about having fun, really.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think especially with like the last lot of conventions that have gone on here, they have become a bit samey. And I think it is, as you say, if you've been the one time before, but if you can go with a group of mates and you're going to see similar guests and you get your photo opportunities and you just go around with no sort of expectations and just have a bit of crack and look at what there is to buy. I think budget is an important thing. I think if you kind of go having not budgeted, and then you see something you really want, you're like, oh, I haven't budgeted for this, you will kind of be a bit like, oh, like I can't enjoy, like you enjoy. I think part of the fun of cons is buying the stuff and getting the stuff.
On the flip side, it's also good to buy stuff randomly as well.
Oh yeah.
That you haven't planned. But at the same time, don't get yourself into fucking baller. I mean, I've got myself in baller so many times. It's crazy. But yeah, it's all about going, and like we didn't go to the last one there in Lisburn last year. There was some great guests that I wanted to meet, although there was a few guests that pulled out, and that's kind of ultimately what made us decide not going. But I think we just needed a year break. Like I think we're going to go this year, but I think we just needed that year away from that convention just to kind of, so that we know we're going to appreciate it more this year.
I had to go for Andy Serkis. I had to. You, Andy, actually, Andy Serkis won the Guess You Met celebration, wasn't it?
So 2023 was a completely different experience. Same arena, same setup, venue and stuff. And mostly travel wise, it was the same experience. We stayed in the same hotel, but the guests, like, they had massive guests. They had Hayden, they had Ian McDermott, they had Andy Serkis, Gwendolyn Christie, Rosario Dawson. Obviously, more films to choose from this time around. They had Ewan McGregor, and the setup, every big massive hall there was filled with something. And back in 2016, there was a few of the halls that were empty or that weren't being used. This one, every single hall was filled with something, whether it be food carts or just something going on in every hall. One of the major differences was that the stage this year, or in 2023, was way bigger than the stage in 2016. We only went to the stage once, I think, in 2016. I can't remember who the person was that came out, but at the last one there, it was massive. Like, it was a major thing, and they had everybody come out. Like, Hayden and Ewan came out, and we saw them. Some of the new guys from the Acolyte, which I don't even think was a trailer at that point for the Acolyte. There was some of the new stuff. They had loads of those guys come out on stage, and it was just, like I said earlier, it was just oversold, and it was a bit of a different experience. But got to meet Rosario, got to meet Andy Serkis, unreal. Met Gwendolyn, met Ian McDermott because he wasn't there the last time, and he was one of the last original trilogy that I wanted to get that was actually still alive. I got Dave Prowse at a different event because he's not allowed to go to celebrations and then obviously he passed away. So McDermott was the last one that I really needed. Oh, and I was never going to get James Earl Jones, and then he's gone now as well. Frank Oz, I suppose, is really the last one from that original trilogy that I'd like to get.
I feel like you're going to have to go to the States for him.
Yeah,
like.
I mean, I'm never going to get him, so I've kind of just accepted that.
Have you ever met Wedge Antilles?
Oh yeah. Wedge Antilles was actually there. I met him there. Yeah, he wasn't at the 2016 one for some reason, but he was there at this one, 2023, and he was one of the other ones that I was definitely like, I need to get the Emperor, I need to get Wedge, and I'd got a lot of the other pilots on other conventions, and I got a lot of the
Porkins?
No, because he died years ago.
Nah,
No, he was there. I got Jack Claff, and obviously I got Biggs at the original one. Loads of other pilots, got Mon Mothma and Dermot Crawley as well, who's General Medine, and loads of the other puppeteers, and Mike Quinn again. That was another one I wanted to get this year, or 2023. I keep saying this year, but I was in 2023. He did Your Mate Nine Numb.
Mm-hmm.
So and obviously he worked with Jim Henson, and he did loads of
Crystal and all
stuff with Jim Henson, puppeteers and all that. So we met him, had a really good chat with him. But it was a pretty good mixture in 2023 of like original trilogy. I think I would like to have seen more original trilogy, but it was a good mixture of original trilogy, and obviously they had some prequel trilogy, but it was mostly new people. And Rosario Dawson was the big one.
Mm-hmm.
Met her and could barely speak. Like when I met her, like unreal, absolutely stunning. Like.
What'd you smell like?
Oh, mate, pineapples.
Oh. Did you ask her about Astamouth?
You never go Astamouth.
Shut up. You dirty bastard. No. In the queue, we were waiting. We went actually early. We had booked the tickets online ages ago. Budgeted, told you budget. We booked them online. And the great thing about this one was we had an app where we could adjust what days we wanted to meet people. So we saw that there was an opening on the Saturday, maybe at a certain time. And we were like, oh, we can change Rosario from the Sunday to the Saturday, which frees us up on that Sunday to do something else. Like maybe there was a panel or something where we wanted to chill out or whatever. So we did that. And that was the major thing at 2023, which was, it was quite easy to do that as well. So that was a massive thing for us. We went over, we sat in Rosario's queue for a while, and we were about 10 people deep. Ooh, there was a guy sitting there who had the Ahsoka. There was this gorgeous Ahsoka Tano cardigan. It was like, you've probably seen it, was like blue, and it had her kind of orange pattern in the back. It was gorgeous, and we were going to buy it because we had tickets for the shop. I bought a Return of the Jedi bomber jacket. I don't know if you've seen that, Danny, have you?
I don't think so.
It was exclusive to the Star Wars shop at that point, and you had to queue up again. It was fucking massive queues and all, but we got there and we got loads of exclusives. That was really the only major thing I wanted to buy. I got a few posters and a few other things, glasses and that, but Janine really wanted that Ahsoka Tano cardigan, but I think it sold out by that point. But the guy was wearing it, so we went over and we were like, oh man, that's class. And he was lovely, lovely guy, and he was chatting to us for ages. And then we were waiting in the queue, we were getting close to the time. There's people come behind us, and then Rosario Dawson's mother walks out, and she just starts talking to us, and she's like, I was kind of like, who's this? And then we realized, we clicked on, and then whenever she came out, man, it was just like, that was just crazy. It was unreal. Never thought I would see her so close. But so again, big table. You start here and you move down, and people give you their pens and blah blah blah, whatever what picture you want signed. I got a beautiful Ahsoka Tano picture signed, obviously in a lovely blue. A blue hue.
A blue hue.
No, it was like a real lovely paint pen. It was gorgeous, like just her kind of blue. It was like kind of the light blue. It was fucking stunning. And we went down, and I just didn't know what to say. I was like, just kind of a wee bit shy, but no, we chatted away to her and obviously told her how much I loved her as Ahsoka and stuff. I didn't mention Clerks, but I did mention Daredevil because I loved her in Daredevil, and that original Netflix Daredevil show's amazing. And I was just like, look, I love you in Daredevil. And she just, her face lit up, and she was like, oh, thanks. And I was like, I'd love you to come back. I'd love that card to come back and stuff. So incredible experience.
Class. I love when you're at a convention and you kind of get talking to like the wee person that's like normally their handler, but as you say, it was like her mum came out. But I remember meeting Kenny Becker at one of the like Emerald Garrison W5 events, like before I started doing the costume and stuff, and it was his wife was with him, and I was waiting. He was like signing something for the person in front of us, and his wife just started like talking to me about like white wine and how Kenny like coming over here to have the Guinness, and how she'd been like in Time Bandits and stuff as well. And I was just like, this is nice.
Kenny,
like,
Kenny Becker loved
Kenny Becker's wife. Like,
he loved a wee drink, didn't he?
Loved a wee pint of Guinness.
He was he was good. Kenny Baker was always good to chat to, and Alan Horace as well was
Mhm.
brilliant to chat to as Bosk. We had him at one of the events, didn't we?
Yep, he was nice. And Jeremy Bulloch, who actually,
Oh
talking
yeah,
about
of
Revenge of the
course.
Sith, we get a little cameo from
We
Jeremy
do.
Bulloch in Revenge
Yeah.
of the Sith as Bail
Lovely.
Organa's pilot, which was nice. But it's nice. It's nice when they're nice, isn't it?
I love, as I mentioned, I love the creatures. I love Jabba's palace. I love all the background people, and I love that Star Wars celebrates all those characters, and because of the universe that we have now, get to see those characters and who they are, and we get to see series based on those characters, or they pop up in Clone Wars or whatever. But obviously back in the day, they were just random characters that were thrown in the background. There was no story to them, but it's great that they're celebrated, and I suppose a few of them maybe kind of celebrate it a little bit too much because they didn't maybe have much of a career after it, and they're like, I'll go and do the conventions and get paid a tenner to sign something. I was, that random creature in the background that didn't have a name, but now they all have fucking names, and that's fucking great, man. Like, I just love seeing all those old guys from the original trilogy. They had made a whole career, and a lot of them went on and they were great puppeteers, or they were great, background artists who went on and starred in other things, but they still kind of have that, oh yes, I was Bosk, or I was Ula the Twi'lek from Return of the Jedi, who I also met at Comic-Con 2 years ago. She's lovely.
Just to close us out in the whole Comic-Con experience, going to Comic-Cons, you sort of have experiences that can randomly happen. And that's sort of the magic of going to these cons. Is there a magical moment that you had at one of the celebrations where you maybe bumped into somebody or, had a conversation with somebody that you just weren't expected, and that's sort of the best moment you took away from the weekends?
There's been a few from the both celebrations. Are you talking about conventions in general or celebrations specifically?
Celebrations specifically.
Right, okay. So there's been a few. I suppose the most random one was that the last one at 2023, we stayed in the Holiday Inn not far from XL Centre. We go in, we're taking ourselves in, and I kind of looking around the foyer and stuff, and I notice somebody, and I'm like, I know that face. I know who that is. And I didn't want to say anything then. I did say to Janine who it was, but I didn't want to make a scene. She was talking to somebody, and she was kind of at the bar. She was talking to a friend, and I didn't want to approach her then because we'd just arrived, and obviously she was in mid conversation. I was like, right, but I know she's staying here. Blah blah blah. So we go upstairs, we book, we check in, we go to her room, we go and have 3 days of celebration. We're absolutely fucking knackered. Like, those days at celebration are, you're up early. I think it closes at like 7 or 8 in the evening, and then obviously you're going to eat food. So it's a long old day, and you're on your feet all day, and blah blah. And you're like, it's full on. It's full on sensory overload basically. But on the last day, sorry, the second to last day, I'd walked up to get breakfast and I'd seen her, and I was like, I'm not going to speak to her. I'm not going. She's talking to somebody. I'm not going to speak to her. But on the last day, which was the Monday, so this one went on to the Monday. Monday morning, we're going in for breakfast, and I see her sitting there. It was Pam Rose, who was in the original Star Wars film, and who goes to a lot of conventions. She played an alien from the Cantina scene, who just a background artist. She's been in other big films. She's been in like Superman as a background artist, and quite a lot of kind of big films back in those days that were filmed at Pinewood and stuff. But she got the job completely randomly, and she was this alien in the Cantina scene, and I can't remember the name of the alien, and one of you guys might look it up there. She's only on screen for like a couple of seconds in the Cantina scene, but there's pictures out there of her sitting with some of those crazy aliens that you can remember from that scene. So I'm eating my breakfast, and I'm like, I'm gonna fucking say something here. Like, I can't walk past her here. Like, so I just stopped and I said, "Oh, hello, Pam. Just want to say hello to you. I'd seen you here before, and just want to say, just want to say hello. Hope you're having a good weekend. Blah blah blah." And then she says, "Sure, sit down." And I'm like, "Are you sure?" She goes, "I sit down. Are you with someone?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'm with my girlfriend Janine." She was like, "Come on over and we'll have breakfast together." So I sat down with Pam Rose and had breakfast on the last day of celebration. And like, I know it's not fucking Ewan McGregor or whatever, Rosario Dawson, but like, for her to invite us to sit down, and what she didn't need to do, and just chat to her, and like, it was strange because she just seemed like someone we had known for years. I think I was Facebook friends with her anyway. And she was asking us where we're from, and have you been here? How long you've been Star Wars fans? Blah blah blah. And we were chatting away, and then I was obviously asking her, well, I have to ask you about the film. Like, I'm not going to not ask you about the film. How did you get the job? Blah blah blah. How was filming on set and all this sort of stuff? So that was a very very unique experience. We got photos with her and all. It was great, and she was just absolutely lovely. And she's somebody who has really embraced the Star Wars community. Very, very, very tiny, small role in the very first film in this famous scene, but she's, kind of made a bit of a career out of that, and people love her because she's very welcoming. she has that vibe with her, and it was just a great experience. That was only one experience from that weekend, but I thought that was probably worth chatting about.
Her name was Lee Sub Cern.
That's the one.
In the canteen, and I think she actually does. They did release, I think, during the Star Wars Saga collection. Did they
Yeah,
do a release
she's
of
got
a
a
figure?
figure. Yeah, so yeah, she was lovely. So that was a great experience.
That's really nice. I love that. I love when you get those wee moments where you kind of have a nice interaction with people. I think my main one, and it's not obviously not celebration, but it's Gav connected. So I'm going to bring up is when Gav and I
Yes.
were at Comic Con 2 years ago, and we were getting our wee picture with the twins from The Shining, and we just got our picture done, and
We had made wee signs, hadn't we?
we made wee signs. So Gav had one that said, "Come play with us, Danny," and I had one that said, "I'm Danny." And my gran had knitted me the Apollo 11 rocket jumper that Danny wears in The Shining. And just as we were leaving, we were running late for the photo shoot. So they were the twins were about to leave, but they were like, "Oh, hold on," and they got their picture with us. And just as we were about to leave the photo booth, Elijah Wood walks in.
Mr. Frodo.
And Elijah Wood's like, "Oh my God, like, look at your jumper. Can I take a picture of you?" And I was just like, "What the fuck? What the fuck?" Like, Elijah Wood, what's a picture of me in my little Danny Shining sweater? Fucking, it's wee moments like that, I think, when you go to a convention where you're just kind of like, oh, something's like happening, or I'm being acknowledged by somebody who I look up to. Yeah, and even like you said, like, the fact that Janine was acknowledged by Ray Park for Love and Toad. It's we things like that you're a bit kind of like, oh, like,
Yeah, that
that's
was
nice. It's
that was
wholesome.
that was a brilliant moment there with Elijah.
Yeah, it was unreal. I couldn't believe it. Like,
I like to think that this September, if we all go to the Northern Ireland Comic Con, we can all have a special moment with Michael Winslow.
Oh yes, absolutely.
Just all four of us making sound effects.
Yeah, the beeps, the sweeps, and the creeps.
We definitely should all go and meet up. Like,
Yeah,
Sure, we'll do all a big cosplay.
why not?
a
Joe
horror
can come
icon
as the
each.
expert.
No, I want him to be Stephen King.
Oh fuck, that'd be great.
Oh yeah, totally. That'd be awesome, King.
So-
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, 100%. He should definitely.
But thanks for coming on, Gav, and sharing your memories from Celebration. Hopefully, if people are heading to Celebration or even just any Comic Con, listening to your stories and sort of knowing what you're getting into, because Comic Cons can be very overwhelming. But like you say, plan ahead, know what you want to do, know what you want to see, or you can't just wing it and just go with the flow, because there is nothing better sometimes than just hitting a Comic Con and just checking out what's there. It's a whole different world. But Gav, if you want to sell your wares, I know us two boys are two members of the old Fright Club, but if you want to tell the old audience about what they can find over at Fright Club in Ida, could you care?
You can find lots of great film reviews on our website, written by myself and yourself, Adam. Or if you like social media, you can go on the old TikTok. You might hear a familiar voice on TikTok as well. He does the old ad on this podcast. And obviously we're on all the other social medias. Facebook is a good place for us to advertise our local screenings. That's probably the most engaging social media that we have. TikTok, as I mentioned, Instagram, Twitter, and our YouTube channel. We have a YouTube channel as well, which we've been doing for a couple of years, and we have our own podcast called The Dissection as well, which we release every 2 weeks. So check that. I'm sure there's links.
Yep. Well, look down, guys.
Yeah.
Look at your phone. I know these days people can't get away from their phones.
I know. We have screenings coming up as well, so keep an eye out for screening announcements as well. It's going to be an exciting one coming.
And this is part of the Banterflick network, and obviously if you're listening, you might know that Banterflix has been away for a wee while, but it is coming back any April, start of May. Telly show should be back soon, NVTV. Podcast will be back. Well, Jim, send Jim your love if you can. He's gone through things, and he appreciate you saying you miss him. And he will be back in your ear holes soon, and you won't have to hear me and Danny go, "You don't watch good lightsabers." Just quite as much.
What are you talking about? People want that more, surely.
Well,
Not enough Star Wars podcasts out there by white men, as you said in the last episode.
Exactly. Also, if you want this spun off into its own thing, let the boys know, because we'll like talking about Star Wars. There's lots of things to be talked about, and eventually we'll talk about everything, which is impossible for Star Wars. Oh my!
I was Kings of the Galaxy.
But that's it for this episode. Thanks, Gav, for joining us.
Thank
No
you,
problem,
Gav.
anytime, guys.
Thank you, Danny, as always, for co-piloting with me.
But of course,
And thank you everybody for listening. Again, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, X, whatever the fuck you want to call it, YouTube, Bandaflix. It's the 21st century. Google it.
and around Ramblin Instagram. Don't forget to follow
Yes.
that as well. And a massive shout out to Andy Cares, who does our theme song as well, the blues cover of Binary Sunset, which is wonderful.
It's lovely.
It's a lovely tune. And also shout out to
Jonathan Sung.
Shout out to Jonathan for supplying lovely artwork that you can also see if you look at your phones. But anyway, that's it for this transmission. Thank you, boys. See you next time. And as always, may the force be with you. Bye.
Stay on target.
Beep, 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 beep.